Welcome to a brand new unit. We just got finished with astronomy. And what we're going to do now, we're going to spend the next like 4 weeks between now and spring break dealing with cells, the idea of cells. Now, I know that you probably learned about cells in sixth grade. I hope you did. I didn't teach sixth grade when you guys were in eighth grade, 2 years ago. I was teaching, but I have before. And hopefully, you guys have some experience using a microscope and you were able to look at some microorganisms. So a lot of the cell stuff shouldn't be brand new. Okay. I do want to say, though, I apologize in advance. Uh, it's not an apology because it's not my fault. There's just nothing we can do. If we were in the classroom, we would be using the microscopes. I love using microscopes. They're so cool to look at microscopic stuff. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So we're just gonna have to go with it. But that being said, uh, the cells, this whole concept of cells, what we're gonna lead into over the course of the unit is heredity, right? Things like genetics. That's where we're going with this. And the reason we're starting with the cell is because it's the DNA is inside the nucleus of the cell. And you've heard of DNA, right? And I'm introducing the broad unit coming in for the weeks to come right now, okay? We're going to get to learning about DNA and how it works. And first, we're going to learn how it functions inside of a cell. Something else about this, I want to link this also to, I know you've all heard of COVID, right? Virus and what viruses do and what they are. And I know you've heard about vaccines. And I want to make sure we get into vaccines, especially this brand new type of vaccine that uses something that's called messenger RNA. And I don't know if you've heard of that. Maybe you read some articles about the vaccines coming out, Pfizer and Moderna and stuff like that. Maybe you're in the process of getting them, or your parents or grandparents are, or whatever. So we are going to be getting to that as well. Okay, so that's to come. I'm giving a forecast here. But first, to understand it, you have to understand the cell and how kind of the cell functions, okay? And so that we're going to get to the parts of the cell. You guys are going to be making a cell model, which we're not starting it yet, but I just want you to giving you an overview. Here's an example of one they've done it in another class. So you'll be making a model like this out of materials that you can find, clay or whatever that you can come up with. And I'll get to that assignment. I'll probably assign it officially in about 2 weeks, and you'll have about 2 weeks to get it done before spring break. Okay, so we got that coming up, and learning the structure and functions of the major organelles, they're called, the little like organs, tiny organs that inside the cell and how they work. And where we're mostly going to be getting to is the DNA and what it does. Okay, and so but again, you gotta know the background of what happens in a cell for that to work. So that's where we're going in the long term. Okay, so the big learning that's going to be happening over this unit while we're dealing with cells is how does the DNA control the functioning of the cells? And I'll tell you right now, the short answer is that it does it by having a code to make proteins. It tells the cell what proteins to make, and the proteins are the little machines inside of the cells. So we're going to be getting into some of the molecules that function. Now, that's where we're going. What I want to do today is just introduce this concept of the cell and cell theory, because people have wondered what it is to be alive for a long time. I mean, it's like, well, I got, skin and bones and arms and stuff, and I'm like walking around and generate heat, my heart beats, all these things going on. The big discovery in biology is it turns out all living things are made of cells. Cells are the basic unit of life, okay? And so today's lesson is going to kind of be about the little exposure to the concept. Maybe I can give you some vocabulary as we go a little bit. That's going to be a challenge with this whole unit. There's lots of new words, but we'll get mostly to that next week, our next lesson. What I do want to give some background, though, and to the whole discovery of cells. You might know by now, I think it's really important for people to understand science isn't just well, here's how it works. It's also, here's how it was discovered. It's a human adventure. And there's a lot of stuff about the functioning of the cell that still is not known. There's lots of unanswered questions still. Maybe you guys can become cell biologists and answer some of those questions. In the sort of molecular biochemistry involved. Or, so anyway, let's go ahead and get to the lesson now. All right. So make sure you have a piece of paper and you title it Cell Theory. This is the scientific theory of the cells. And you might, by the way, you might think, well, why do we have to learn about cells? Who cares? What's going on? You can't understand what a disease is unless you know what the microorganisms are. Some diseases are like nutrient deficiency or something, but a lot of them are microorganisms that are like tiny little cells, right? Individual cell stuff. So it's really important for medicine. And if you just are curious about life and how it works, it's pretty crucial. And it's also, when you think about it, mind-blowingly amazing because we're not just, we're an individual living thing. I'm an individual dude named Bill Davis, right? And I live my life and stuff. But it turns out I'm made out of about 100 trillion tiny little cells. And each of them is alive. And they function together to the cells make tissues. The tissues make organs like a bone or a heart or a lung. And the organs make organ systems. And then the organ systems makes the individual organism, right? And so it really all comes down to the cell here.